Marhaba and welcome again to a new episode of Let's Talk Mobility. Today we're going to discuss EV again, but in a completely different angle. I know that electric vehicles has been a big fuss in the region and everyone is talking about, but today we're bringing it from a different angle with a revolutionary idea and business model. Fuse, a new UAE-based company where it transferred any ICE engine vehicle into a completely electric vehicle. To talk more about Fuse, we have with us Mr. Salman Hussain, the CEO and the co-founder of the company. Can the past help us build a greener future?
Do you think it's a good idea to convert old used petrol cars into electric cars?
Of course, it's very good for the environment. I think it's great.
Yes, of course, it will save the cost.
It's a great idea. I think it's a great concept.
It is good because we'll have a lot of mechanical waste.
Well, that's what we're heading at, right, in the future. So, yeah.
بحس إنه لازم تتغير لأنه saving much more money.
Would you like to convert your petrol car into an electric car?
Absolutely, 100%.
We definitely need more charging infrastructure, and if that is available, then 100% I will convert.
Provided I don't have to spend so much money, I will do it.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
I drove electric a couple of times and didn't like the experience, to be honest.
Not anytime soon because infrastructure is a challenge currently.
I would consider it, but I wouldn't. It depends on the person's personality as well.
Depends, of course, on the cost and the performance of the car after.
If it's safe, I would do it, yeah. It's very on cost.
Salman, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and welcome to Let's Talk Mobility.
I'm happy to be here.
Salman, let's immediately start our discussion. What is Fuse?
Fuse started 2 years ago as a concept in our head. What if we took, classic cars and turned them into electric? Now, it's not something novel. I have seen this happen in the US, in UK. And the early cars that they were trying were Volkswagen Beetles and some of those early Volkswagen models were quite easy to do. So we took that concept and we thought, why don't we bring that with a unique twist to Dubai? The weather is different, so we had to make a lot of changes to the systems. But we thought we could do it. So 2 years ago, me and my co-founder, Mihai, decided to bring actually a whole system from California, bought a vehicle from here, and took out a loan, and we decided, let's build this. And the reception was quite good. People loved what they were seeing. They'd never seen something like this in their life. And we thought, maybe we can build on this. And that's sort of the inception of the brand. It's been 2 years since. We've done a lot. But yeah, that's kind of where it started.
It's a new concept specifically in UAE. I don't think there is any other companies who's offering what Fuse is offering. Am I right?
In the UAE, when it comes to classic car conversions, we're one of the only ones. We know a couple of people, of course, who are trying their own projects. But as far as having, a few projects out now, I think we're one of the only ones.
Transferring petrol or diesel engines into a completely electric car, it's challenging technically. So can you give me more details from a technical perspective? How do you guys do it?
Yeah, honestly, it was a lot harder than it seems because it seems very simple. You take out the existing engine and then you put in a motor. But it's a little bit more complicated than that because when you take the powertrain of the system out, you're essentially taking out also the support for a lot of systems. And what I mean by that is your engine not only takes care of your braking, it also takes care of your steering sometimes, and a lot of other systems that are reliant on the engine. So when you take that out, you've got to compensate for that by having an electrically assisted steering, electrically assisted braking, and you need to come up with systems that can retrofit not just the engine to the motor alone, find the battery placement, make sure that the car is driving roughly the same in terms of the weight and handling by cleverly positioning and placing batteries, by being able to then have a engine control unit, or in our case, a motor control unit, on top of everything else, so that it's able to, take charging properly, or be able to, drive and have regen and all of these things. So it's a technical challenge for sure, But it's one that now, 2 years down the line, we're quite close to getting all of those things solved.
How many cars have you guys converted so far in UAE?
So we have done about 7 projects in total.
7 cars.
But those are not actually exclusive to the UAE. We're working with quite a few breadth of people in the region. We're working with the government project in Jordan. We're working with an NGO for a Hilux pickup truck, and this will go to Yemen. And then we're also working on a bunch of classic cars for owners in the UAE. So we're doing quite a few things, and there's some exciting times ahead.
Salman, with all the mentioned parts that you guys are replacing and changing and removing from the car, how much time does it take for you guys to be able to accomplish one car?
That's a good question. And honestly, when we started off, we didn't realize how long it'll take. So to do all of the design and engineering, which is all done in-house in Fuse, this is what takes the longest. The actual install, putting the components in, can be as little as 2 weeks, 3 weeks once you design it. So I'm going to say the engineering...
You guys design it in-house?
We do everything.
Completely?
Everything.
Even with the EV parts, you guys are producing it here in UAE? Or it's like...
Most of the parts that we buy, so if you're buying motors and batteries, they usually come as a module, the batteries, and the motor comes as a separate motor. This is common in the industry. Even established brands like Chevrolet, they buy motors and batteries. And so what we do is exactly the same. But then when we design the system around it, that's the part where the engineering, design, development comes in. We 3D scan the vehicle. We bring that into CAD. We then develop a system custom around it. And then we're able to create all the bus bars, contactors, like all of these safety equipment around all of the existing vehicle, fabricate it, and install it. All of that can take anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So it's a long process.
6 to
12 months.
Oh, wow.
It's a very long.
Really long.
Exactly. Yeah, it can take a long time. And then it's something we didn't initially realize, but we're coming to realize now that it's a standard across the industry. However, once you've done that, the ability to replicate it again is then a much shorter lead time. And the thing is, we've been working very hard to make our systems so that they can become kits. And once you have...
Ready kits?
Yeah, ready kits. So once you have a ready kit, the actual time it takes a kit to be installed in the vehicle is 5 hours.
Huh.
So it's very different.
You're reducing it from 6 to 12 months in the first application, applying, into 5 hours.
5 hours, yeah.
This depends, of course, on the type of car that we're building, we're transferring into EV.
Exactly, yeah. So the one that I'm talking about right now, we've tried many, many times, is the Toyota Hilux. We have a kit ready for a Toyota Hilux Gen 6, which is the model that used to come from 1999 to 2005. We're specifically targeting African markets with it. And the whole idea about it is it's very simple. It's a plug-and-play system. Like, you just literally just plug a few things together, literally like a Lego set. And you're able to convert that existing car to an EV, keeping its gearbox, keeping a lot of components, but most importantly, keeping the price down quite a bit. And that's the key to making it work. It's easy to install. It requires almost no modifications apart from, just the basic fitment. So you don't actually have to make any holes or drill anything in the vehicle. But you have to remove all the mechanical parts. That's right.
And replace it with modules and batteries and a new electric motor.
That's right, yeah.
When you've mentioned something around the weight distribution, because compared to petrol or a diesel engine and a modules of batteries, the weight will goes up for sure, and the whole distribution will be completely messed up compared to a normal engine. How do you guys do? Do you do like testing of this vehicle before releasing it?
Yeah, so we do a bunch of things actually when we start. When we get the vehicle inside, we weigh them up, on each wheel to see where the weight of the current vehicle is. Then we design a system so that it's the least impact to the handling of the car by keeping the weights the same. So in the case of our Hilux pickup truck kit that I'm talking about, when we remove the engine, we actually place our battery and a part of the battery and the motor in such a space that the weight distribution and the weight impact is minimal to the front, and we take out the old fuel tank and put a little bit of the battery there as well. So you have now...
Instead of the fuel tank.
Exactly. So you have basically both of these areas where the fuel weights used to be, and those weights are still distributed in the same area. So there's not a lot of compensation that you have to do, the car handles pretty much the same way.
But you've mentioned the Toyota Hilux. Do you guys remove the cargo space? Is it minimized or it's still as is?
We don't remove anything from the interior or the cargo space. So the car looks exactly like a Toyota. It's only when you open the hood when you realize that there's something.
And the platform itself, it's exactly the same.
It's absolutely.
So there is no changes in the platform.
There's no changes.
No drilling here or there.
No, it can be reverted back into an an engine vehicle without any issue.
Salman, with all the things that you've mentioned technically, do you guys do it here internally in UAE? Do you have the staff? Do you have the talented team that will be able to transfer and do such a project?
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to do it without my co-founder. And he's the brains behind the entire operation. And the small but very capable team that we lead are able to actually put that down and make the vehicles work. All of the work that I mentioned to you earlier is happening in the UAE. All the way from fabricating the bus bars, which are what transfers the current internally. We make them here in Al Quoz. All the way down to the fabrication of the battery boxes and all the high voltage systems. It's all done in-house. They're in fact actually just local suppliers that we use in and around where we're sitting, not very far from here.
Well, costs when it comes to transferring a vehicle from being a petrol or a diesel engine to become a fully electric vehicle, approximately what's the cost for this?
The cost varies a lot. Look, there is no doubt a lot of engineering and design and development that goes into the first vehicle. So when somebody comes to us with a classic car that's unique to us, we're usually going to take that into account. The 6 to 12 months we mentioned earlier. Those can take 100 to 200 hours to develop in-house before we're able to put the system out. So costs for something like that usually start around $40,000 or about 130 to 140,000 dirhams and go up from there. That's a high price. However, for models that we're working on scaling up, especially the commercial aspect, we're looking at these in emerging markets like Africa. We've done the research and development in coordination with a couple of people like NGOs. We're working with La Cars Mission International and ITDC. And these guys have given us the ability to do the engineering and design in-house so that we can bring these kits at cheaper costs. And at that point, we're able to offer the kit at less than $20,000.
Less than $20,000.
Less than $20,000. So we're really looking at something 75,000 dirhams or less. Ideally, we wish to hit 50,000 dirhams for mass orders. So for orders that are at least 20, 30, maybe more kits, we should be able to offer that pricing.
But this is specifically for kits that goes into a fleet. With Fuse, do you aim to focus into fleet and mass production or mass kits to this fleet cars, or the focus into transferring like heritage cars or classic cars and transfer them to become fully electric cars? Where is the direction?
It's a good question. We started off actually a lot with the heritage cars, and I think that they're quite great for getting the know-how and the knowledge out. Eventually, we're looking at making a bigger impact. We feel like we owe that to the planet because there's a lot of benefits of retrofitting a car to EV. Sometimes even over buying a new EV. And the markets that are going to be the most difficult to convert, I say convert, but really actually just to switch over to electric mobility, are going to be those emerging markets because the price of an electric vehicle is expensive. So the adoption that's happening right now is in countries that can afford it. Right? Think about Europe, think about the UAE, right? So what we're trying to do is to bring adoption earlier to countries that can't afford it. And that's the aim, the impact that we want to make. By taking a kit, you're able to take a car that they have for a lot lower cost and be able to switch them today rather than when the options are going to be affordable for them to do.
Having a solution to transfer a classic or a heritage car into a completely electric vehicle, people would be like, I prefer to go with an electric car instead of transferring a petrol or a diesel engine into an electric car. You were mentioning emerging markets and transferring this. I want to hear your take on specifically classic heritage cars, more than the fleet.
So when you look at people who have taken it up, our customers, right? They're a different kind of customer, especially when you look at classic car ownership itself is changing. You have the people who really either grew up with the cars that they really want to keep the car running. And And there's those type of people that go, yeah, look, I just want the same car, but I know that it's not reliable anymore. And I think that that's what the target market for something like that is. Look, in the 60s and 70s, up to even, I would say, the 80s, cars were quite good looking. I feel like a lot of cars right now are very generic because of this.
They lost the DNA of...
Yeah, and also the coefficient of drag right now is such a big deal. So you air tunnel test every single car. Because of that, most of the cars end up looking the same. So the idea of having something very, very unique from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that appeal is there. But for a lot of people, the headache that comes with trying to manage the engine and parts for that is usually not worth it. So you end up buying a car. Think about like a Jaguar from the 60s and 70s. Beautiful, beautiful designs. And they say the Jaguar E-Type is the most beautiful car in the world. However, parts for them and the reliability of those components usually used to not be the best. So what we're offering is the ability for you to get into something really good looking and gorgeous and to make it a daily driver and to go, when I switch that thing on, it will turn on. It's as simple as that.
You want to keep these cars, these models alive in a way or another.
And I kind of agree with you on this. That a lot of people say that there's the soul of the car is in the engine, the noise. But there are a lot of cars that are out there that both a lot of people love to modify. Because if you look at the car community, especially in the classic car communities, something that's very common, as you know as well, is LS swaps. If you were removing the original engine for a modified engine, which may make a sound, which makes quite a good sound, LS...
higher sound sometimes.
Exactly. But if you look at the idea that a purist would be able to do an engine swap anyway, then they would be open to an electric conversion simply because they want something that will drive on them and not break down on them in the middle of the road. And that's kind of what we offer. Every single modern convenience you need, AC, cooling, modern braking, all of that, but in a shape that's totally unique on the road.
Salman, moving you to a completely different topic. Electric vehicles on a global scale. The results of 2023 sales has been already shared and published. We've seen some declining, not in our market specifically, but on a global scale, like in Northern America, even in Europe. People are still not really 100% convinced with EVs. How do you view it from Fuse perspective?
It all comes down to the bell curve of adoption, and this is something that we knew from a long time ago. If you look at the bell curve of adoption, you usually have your early adopters, people like me, who bought when there was not a single electric car on the road. And those people would have bought all the way up to 5, 10, even 17% of your market. Beyond that is your mass market adoption. That's where things get really difficult. And then beyond that, you have the laggards, the people that wait until, everything is super sure and they're quite late to the party. But we're not there yet. So we're actually in the space between the 17 and the 50%. So we're in the second half of the going up of the bell curve. In this region where we are, a lot of the needs of the users change from just having something cool or being sustainable to like, does this make sense for me financially? And does this make sense in terms of, its everyday usage? Is it way more complicated? And I think the answer to that is in the markets that you see electric vehicle adoption. And so in China, electric vehicle adoption continues to rise. Even in the UK, the rate of electric vehicle adoption has lowered, but actually it is still being adopted net over petrol and diesel. So the rate of growth is still happening.
Because of the fuel prices
exactly.
rising. Yeah. And in China, the government is pushing towards electrifications.
Absolutely.
They're forcing it.
Exactly. So the question really comes down to the price. Does it make sense and is it convenient enough? And those are two questions I feel like that are external to the electric vehicle, because one of them requires technological progress in batteries and motor components to be able to bring the price down, which is something that's happening now already. China has proven that you can actually get cars today at price parity with electric vehicle combustion engines. BYD, I think, just announced a new vehicle type that they're building that has cost parity and I think will be cheaper as well in the very soon future. So the first thing is solved. And the second thing is about charging infrastructure. This is external to the car. And this is something that I think a lot of people will have to change their mindset around, especially as new technologies come in like wireless charging, where you can just, park in a parking bay, and rather than having to plug the car in, there's an inductive charging, loop at the bottom that will just be able to charge and process your payment.
With Fuse, if you look at the batteries, since we're talking about batteries and chargers, is it standardized batteries that you guys are placing in any of your projects, or it's something, do you have like a secret recipe to the chargers or to the modules of battery itself?
The secret sauce, however, is not in that. The secret sauce is making all of it work, because when you look at the control of all of these different set of components, we're right now working on developing a VCU, a vehicle control unit, that's going to be able to essentially look at charge times and optimize for the battery, optimize for the charging, all within just that vehicle control unit. But it's not just that. We're also working with an IoT system, which is like a little telematic solution that's able to transfer the data, all of the data that's coming out from that car, whether it's the battery's temperature or whether the amount of power that the motor is giving, and then transfer it to the cloud. And what that enables you to do is to not only be able to look at what the vehicle is doing and where it is, but also be able to control it in the basic sense. So that then enables fleet work where you can manage your fleet, work where you
manage several cars.
Exactly. You can optimize for charging time. You can geofence. So if the car goes beyond a designated zone, either it switches off or the user gets a warning.
I was going through the website of fuse.ae and I read one statement. Converting cars not only helps reduce carbon emission of existing cars, but also eliminates the need for new car production. This is a strong, bold statement. Can you elaborate on that?
If you look at the vehicles on the road, we have 1.4 billion vehicles existing. Pretty much all of them are petrol at the moment or diesel. Taking that stock and making it an electrified version of them through a fuse kit or any other kind of kit like this makes sense, because 30% of the production of the vehicle's carbon emissions actually come from the steel body and all the things, because steel also has to be mined from ore, and that has a cost, even though we like to talk about batteries. So inherently there's about 30% less carbon emissions that would come from electrifying a vehicle than to buy a brand new vehicle of the same type. And that's the target gap that we're looking for. If we're trying to match net zero targets, which is what now in 2050 means only 26 years, because we're in 2024, we need to make drastic changes in this sector to be able to decarbonize our transport and to be able to offer lower costs. Will drive down our carbon emissions today rather than having to wait until 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line when we have viable alternatives. So our aim is to bring a lower carbon emission solution today to be able to decarbonize today. And so there are two benefits. One is that you're able to decarbonize and have an efficient way of mass transport, rather than a couple of years down the line at the present, and to be able to save that 30% on the carbon emissions of having a new vehicle body manufactured, which, it's already existing in a petrol and diesel vehicle on the road right now.
Salman, I do have a challenge for you. I was speaking to Al-Futtaim team behind the cameras, and they were telling me if we will be able to secure one vehicle for Salman and Fuse team to be fully transferred into an EV, are you able to do this kind of transformation?
We are happy to take on challenges. So we will definitely take up your challenge to do that.
Since you accepted the challenge, I will leave it to the audience to choose which car from Al-Futtaim group that you guys will pick and choose for Salman and Fuse team to be fully transferred into an EV vehicle. Thank you very much, Hussain, for your time. Our viewers, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes to come from Let's Talk Mobility. For people who love podcasts, you can find us on Spotify. You will find the account in front of you now. And stay tuned for more episodes to come. Bye-bye.